Hello and welcome to the language of leadership. I'm your host, Chuck Marting. Sorry, I'm a little bit off. My computer took a nosedive on me. And so I'm doing this on my iPad and I'm hoping that it's going to come out as clear as the podcast usually does. And if not, at least you know why and what's going on. But I still felt it was really important to get a podcast episode out to you guys, especially with this last week and what I experienced. You see, I was on the assisting team for Jack Canfield at the Breakthrough to Success seminar, which was a 3-day seminar out in Riverside, California, just this last week. And so I wanted to share with you some of my thoughts and feelings that I had and experience this from the viewpoint of being on the assisting team. Now, I've been through Breakthrough to Success 3 other times. So this is my 4th time. And every time that I have gone, I have had new breakthroughs. I've had a different experience through it. So it is very powerful and it allows you to transcend your thoughts and the things that you're experiencing. So I am going to be using some notes that I have that I jot down on my iPhone. So I hope that you'll bear with me as I refer to some of that because I didn't want to miss anything. And I wanted to take really good notes to be able to share with you some of the experiences that I had. Now, what I want to do in this episode today is I want to dive into the heart of what I feel is effective leadership, and that is in mastering your mindset. Now, you may have heard about the impact of mindset, but let's take it further. Today, I want to go into breaking it down. I want to go into the principles from the Breakthrough to Success seminar that I went through. It's a transformational program by Jack Canfield. You see, Jack's teachings have inspired countless leaders, and from CEOs to entrepreneurs to managers, and it's helped them to elevate their leadership through a powerful mindset shift. Now, I want you to think about it. In today's fast-paced, high-stakes environment that we're all experiencing, our mindset is our strongest tool. Yet it's something that leaders often overlook because they're focusing instead on strategy, skill, or even execution. What if I told you that by harnessing certain mindset techniques, you can improve not only your performance, but also the culture and success of your team? That's what I want to explore today with you on this episode of The Language of Leadership. In this episode, we're going to cover practical strategies that we had at Breakthrough to Success. And those are going to be taking full responsibility for our outcomes, breaking free from limited beliefs, visualizing our success, and then turning failure into fuel. I'll share real life stories of leaders who've applied these principles that we're going to discuss. And as a result, it's transformed their teams, their careers, and even the lives of these individuals in the process. So if you've got a notebook, you might want to grab it and you're going to want to take some notes because we're going to dig deep into this first principle in the Jack Canfield Breakthrough to Success series. And that is, it's essential for anyone aspiring to leadership, in my opinion, to understand and implement this first principle. And that's taking 100% responsibility for your results. Let's move into that segment. That's the power mainly of taking responsibility for our choices. Now, it's one of the fundamental principles that Jack Canfield teaches, and it's to lead successfully, you have to take 100% responsibility for your results. Not 90, not 99, but the full 100%. Now, I know that sounds simple, but the impact of this principle is so profound. So I want to talk about a story of a woman named Samantha. Samantha is a division head in a major tech firm, and she came into her team that had faced declining performance and low morale. And after a few months of observation, Samantha could have blamed previous leadership or even her team's lack of motivation. But instead, she chose to take complete responsibility. She realized that if she didn't take full responsibility and fully own the results that she was getting, she'd never inspire her team. She would never have them step up and take ownership of their own roles if she didn't do this. So Samantha called a team meeting, and to everyone's surprise, She began by admitting her own missteps in her leadership journey. She was open about the challenges, but instead of blaming external factors, she asked each team member to join her in looking inward to find solutions. That's when things started to change. Her team followed her example. They acknowledged their own areas for growth. And soon the performance and metrics started to climb, and the morale on her team dramatically improved. So, why is that? Well, it's because Samantha was the example. By taking responsibility, that act alone inspired her team to take on their ownership of these things as well. Now, there are some practical tips that Jack Canfield talked about when it comes to 100% responsibility and taking ownership of that. And I want to share those with you. So these are from my notes that I took. The first one is daily reflection. So each day you have to ask yourself, what could I have done better today? That simple question can shift you from a reactive to a proactive leader. The second thing is encouraging ownership. You need to create an environment where your team feels empowered to take on responsibility. So, for example, you have to invite open discussions with your team. And we've talked about that before here on the language of leadership. You have to have those discussions and talk about those challenges rather than assigning blame as to why they're not occurring. The third thing is to lead by example. So just as Samantha did, you need to show your team that you own your results, good or bad, doesn't matter. Leaders who lead with responsibility and they encourage their teams to rise above the excuses, embrace a results driven mindset, will become so much more effective and successful. So the next thing I want to talk about that we experienced at the Breakthrough Success Seminar was the rule of visualizations and affirmations, and to see how a leader can transform their own project with their own techniques in this. You see, it's another key lesson from Jack Canfield. And he believes that your visualization consistently can shape your reality. It's a practice that many successful leaders and athletes swear by. But how exactly does this work? And how does it work for a leader? Well, I want you to consider a story by Michael. You see, he's a project manager at a fairly large manufacturing company that you would recognize if I dropped the name. He was handed an important project that had been plagued with delays and budget issues, and it affected the morale of his team. It was very low. And many of the team members felt it was bound to fail because of the lack of success that they were having. But Michael, he was committed to what he had learned through Jack Canfield's principles of visualization and affirmations, even when it felt uncomfortable at first for him to try these things and to experience it. So what Michael did is that every morning he would spend a few minutes visualizing the project's successful completion. You see, he pictured his team celebrating their win, the client praising their efforts, and he would say affirmations like, I am capable of leading my team to success. Together, we will deliver excellence. This practice didn't change the project's hurdles overnight, but it did something just as crucial. It shifted Michael's mindset, and ultimately it affected and it also shifted the mindset of his team. So you see, as Michael started showing up with this renewed vision, he noticed subtle changes with his team. He noticed things such as the energy of the team totally changed. His positivity was contagious, and that too affected his team. You see, he began to share his vision with the team in their team meetings, and this helped the team picture their success as clearly as Michael did. Now, when challenges arose, rather than getting discouraged, he would steer the team back to their shared vision. And incredibly, that project not only met its deadlines, but it exceeded the initial expectations that were held there for them. So there are some practical tips with this, and I want to share those with you. And this is what I had written down. You have to start each day by picturing your ideal outcome. You have to be specific, and you need to be specific about what success looks like for you and your team. The second thing you need to do is you have to use affirmations to help overcome any doubt that you may have. So you have to write down a few affirmations that reinforce your leadership goals. So, for example, what I wrote down here is, I am resilient in the face of challenges. Or you could write, I inspire others through my vision. I think that is a very powerful one as well. The third thing that you need to do is you need to involve your team in this vision. You need to talk openly what success looks like. Help them develop that picture as well. Together, when you do this, you're encouraging them to imagine and achieve their goals and to do so as a team. And then they will celebrate even the little wins along the way because they're going to be excited and they're going to share this with each other. You see, visualizing and affirming success, it may seem simple, but as we saw with Michael's story, the impact can be so profound. It transforms your energy. It transforms the energy of your team. And this can inspire your entire team to work towards a shared goal. And that's where success comes into play when you do that. Now, let's move on to the next thing that is really crucial in this whole seminar, and that is breaking through our limited beliefs that we may have. Limited beliefs are beliefs, and there are stories that we tell ourselves. And often they're rooted in not only our fear, but also our doubts. So by breaking through those limited beliefs, you as a leader can unlock incredible potential for not only yourself, but for your team as well, because we're sharing this with the team. I want to give you another example, and let's call this individual Jason. You see, Jason, he was a manager at a marketing agency, and he was struggling with feeling that he was too young for the role that he was in. He feared that his team wouldn't respect him or they wouldn't even take him seriously because of his age. How many times have we heard that? How many times have you heard new leaders that are very inspiring and then they get put in a position like this and they just have that inner conflict of dealing with individuals who are older than themselves, feeling they're not going to be taken as seriously as they should be. But you see, every time he made his decision, because of this, he started to second guess himself. He was worried that he might lose his team. And not only that, but he would lose their confidence. And he knew about Jack Canfield's principles of overcoming limiting beliefs. And so he decided to confront his fears head on. He began by writing down his limited belief. And that was, I'm too young to be taken seriously. And then he replaced it with an empowering belief. And that belief that he had was, I bring fresh perspectives and energy to lead my team effectively. What a difference between the two, right? And he repeated this new belief to himself every day. He wrote it down on a 3x5 card, index card. He kept it with him. Anytime he had just a few minutes, he reviewed that and he looked at it. I bring fresh perspective and energy to lead my team effectively. And he did this over and over and over again. And it helped remind him of his own unique strengths and what he brought to the table for this team. And you see, one day, a team member approached him. And they did this right after a meeting that they had. And this team member thanked him and thanked him for his innovation and his approach on this project. That moment was pivotal for Jason because you see, he realized that his age wasn't a disadvantage. It was an asset. Gradually, his confidence gained and it grew, and he started to notice his team was responding positively. His shift in his own mindset, it didn't just help him, but it also affected and uplifted his team's confidence in their own leadership abilities. Now, I want to share with you the tips that I have or the things that I wrote down on my notebook again. And that is first, we need to identify limited beliefs. You have to write any belief that starts with I can't or I'm not enough, for example. You see, these are often rooted in fear or even our past experiences that we've had. The second thing is you need to take and you need to create empowering beliefs. So for each of the limited beliefs that you've identified, you need to write a positive belief that's going to reflect your own strengths. Now, the next thing that Jack teaches is that you have to reinforce this daily. So repeat your empowering beliefs to yourself each day, especially before facing those challenges or those situations. It's so easy to put it on a 3x5 index card and carry it with you everywhere. It's easily put into your pocket. I take mine out and I put it on my dashboard of my truck as I'm driving so I can look up at it. It's right there on my radio. So I already know what I'm listening to. I don't need to read what it is that I'm listening to or the band. I already know who it is, right? So I have it there. So when I do look at the radio, I see it. It's a constant reminder to me to repeat my new belief. Okay. You see, when you remove those self-imposed limitations, you not only are going to grow as a leader, but you're also going to get your team's permission to do the same. All right. So next, I want to look at the power of goal setting and how it can transform you as a leader and your approach to success. And goal setting may seem straightforward. We all have heard goal setting. People have talked about it. But what I like is that Jack Canfield emphasizes a little bit deeper level of commitment. You see, he teaches that powerful leaders set clear, intentional goals that are both actionable and measurable. You see, your goals will provide you direction. And that's something that every leader and also their team needs so that they can stay focused and also to be motivated. So I want to talk about a lady named Sarah. Okay. She is a director of a nonprofit organization. And when Sarah first started, she was very passionate, but often she felt overwhelmed by just the sheer number of the needs of her organization. She felt that she wasn't addressing these things effectively. Those goals were too broad, like increase funding or help more people. But these weren't clear enough to create the actionable steps that she needed to take. So one day, while she was attending the workshop with Jack Canfield on how to approach this goal setting, when she listened to it, it changed everything for her. She learned to set specific, measurable, and time bound goals. Instead of saying increasing funding like she was before, what she ended up doing, Sarah set a goal to raise, and it was very specific, $50,000 in 3 months through three major fundraising events. And you know what? She broke down the goal into steps. And then she assigned tasks to each one of those goals. And she did this and assigned it to each team member. And it helped set milestones for them to reach along the way in doing their productivity towards the goals that she was setting for them. With this type of focused approach, Sarah and her team not only achieved their goal, but they exceeded it. The clarity motivated Sarah and her team is now they could see tangible progress as they were working on these things. You know, by setting intentional, actionable goals, Sarah turned her vision into achievable outcomes with her team. So the three things that I wrote down that are, I feel, are practical tips on this is number one, ensure your goals are specific. They have to be measurable. They have to be achievable, and they need to be relevant, and they have to be time bound. You need to give a time frame as to when this is going to be completed. The next thing is breaking down your goals. You need to divide large goals into smaller tasks with clear deadlines so that your team doesn't feel overwhelmed. The last thing is you need to regularly review the progress with your team. Hold those check-ins regularly. And this is so that you can adjust the plan if you need to, and also that you can celebrate your successes that you're having or the progress that you're making. Now, this keeps your team motivated and it helps keep everybody on track by doing this. Okay. Goal setting done right is going to give leaders and their teams the clarity that they need to reach the potential that they have. So by setting specific actionable goals, you can create as a leader the momentum, and you can also help drive the results that your team will achieve. So embracing failure as a learning tool is huge. One of the toughest parts of leadership is learning to view failure as a tool rather than a setback. And Jack Canfield encourages leaders to embrace failure as a necessary step towards success. Leaders who are willing to learn from failure will often find it can be one of the best teachers. And I pause there for a minute because this was one of those aha moments for me during the seminar over these 3 days. I want to share with you Alicia's story, and she was the founder of a healthcare group. It was a startup. Early on, she faced a major setback. You see, a pilot program that she'd launched, it didn't meet expectations, and it resulted in financial loss. And for a while, Alicia, she felt discouraged. Even she thought about stepping down from her position. But then she remembered what Jack Canfield had taught, that everything you want is on the other side of fear. Instead of quitting, she analyzed what went wrong, and then she was seeking insights to improve the approaches that she had taken. So through this self-reflection that Alicia identified, she was able to identify gaps in her products and the usability of them that she hadn't even thought of or had even seen before. So then she adjusted her strategy and she relaunched this. Ultimately, it led to a significant increase in not only satisfaction, but also in her growth. Her willingness to learn from failure helped her build a stronger and a more resilient company. So, some practical tips that I wrote down are: we need to reframe failure as our feedback. So, instead of seeing failure as a dead end, we need to view it as as valuable information that guides us to our next steps. The next thing is to conduct post-mortem reviews. Okay. And what I mean by that is right after a setback, we need to reflect on what worked, what didn't, and what we can do to improve. You need to share, the last thing is you need to share these lessons, though, with your team. You have to normalize failure with them, and you have to do so as a learning experience so they understand that. And this is going to help them build their own confidence up. It's going to help you in building the culture of resilience. And it's also going to help you in teaching them that this is a continuous improvement when you're going through projects and learning how to do these things as a team. Failure, when it is reframed as a learning experience, becomes a stepping stone to greater success. And leaders who embrace this type of mindset, they're going to inspire their teams, and their teams will then take risks and they'll be more innovative in their approaches to projects. Now, let's look at building a positive support network. That was something that was really important, that went really well with everyone that attended this seminar. As leaders, we often are taught to be self-sufficient, but Jack Canfield reminded us during the seminar of the importance of a supportive network. He said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's building a positive support network that can elevate not only our own leadership, but it can also elevate our own lives by doing that. So I want to share Marcus's story. He's a senior sales director and he was good at his job, but he was struggling to connect with his peers. He often felt like he was going it alone. He was constantly pushing himself, but without that support or even the feedback from anyone, he wasn't getting it, and it was affecting his ability to perform. And over time, the isolation that he was experiencing, it started to impact his performance and eventually also his confidence. So after he attended Jack Canfield's seminar, Marcus realized he needed a network of like-minded individuals who would challenge him, who would hold him responsible and accountable. So he made it a point to seek out a mentor, and he joined a peer group of sales leaders, and they started having regular feedback sessions with his team. Hey guys, so the last 5 minutes of the podcast did not have audio. So I'm redoing the last 5 minutes. So that's why you're seeing a different screen and everything. But I wanted to pick up where I left off with you and talking about Marcus and his story. So over the next few months, Marcus felt more energized and focused. He even achieved his highest sales targets. And it was largely because of ideas and encouragement that he had received and the accountability that his team felt that they had towards him for all the things that they were doing. So I think there's a lot there that we need to take into consideration. So I want to share with you the tips that I had taken notes on for this part of it. So, number one, you need to seek mentors for you and for your peers as well. They're going to help you in seeking opportunities, and you need to connect with those individuals and keep them close to your heart because they have an interest in seeing you succeed and they're investing in you. Also, you need to encourage open feedback. You need to remember to build a culture where your team can give you feedback and you can receive constructive feedback as well so that you guys can continue your growth and so that everyone feels that they've got a voice and that it shows that you actually care about them and where you're headed in this whole idea of having a leader that can lead and give them the tools that they need to continue their growth as well. And then the third tip that I have is to join or even form your own peer group. So if you're not finding people that you feel can be a really good mentor for yourself, or you find people that are just fabulous and you want a whole group to benefit from that, you can invite several people to be your mentors and start a mastermind where you guys just have a check-in, even if it's just one call for an hour every other month. Do what you need to do so that it continues with your growth and also the blessing that your team is going to realize because of this. You know, a strong support network is going to help uplift you and it's going to help you with your challenges. It's going to help you become an even better leader. And it's going to create that ripple effect with your team as they realize that you're there for them. And it's going to help you in reaching that goal of your highest potential as a leader. So, on this episode of the podcast, we explored Jack Canfield's transformative mindset principles for leadership. And these are powerful strategies. They've helped countless leaders break through barriers and it's helped inspire them as well. And it's helped individuals achieve their specific goals and their dreams. So, everything from the 100% accountability that we talked about, the visualization success that people have had, and then the intentional setting of goals. And then, of course, having to learn from our own failures and then building that positive network. Each one of these principles offers tools to help elevate your leadership. So, as we discussed, mindset is the foundational effect of leadership. It's the lens through which we view challenges and we also view changes. It helps us set up our goals and helps us in responding to our setbacks that we may have as well. But the most inspiring part of this is that every one of these principles can be applied no matter where you are in your journey. So, whatever your experience is, if you're experiencing an experienced executive or even a manager, these tools that we've discussed in this podcast can help you lead with purpose, resilience, and also vision. So I encourage each one of you who have listened to this podcast to take at least one of these principles and start implementing it right away. Maybe it's creating just a daily practice of visualization, identifying and overcoming limited beliefs. Maybe it's reaching out to build a supportive network, like we just talked about, or even take a small actionable step that's going to move you closer to the leader you aspire to be. You know, leadership is a journey, it's not a destination. And as Jack Canfield has said, success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. When we master our mindset, we're not only setting ourselves up for success, but we're also empowering our teams to grow and thrive. So I want to thank you for joining me on this journey in this episode of the Language of Leadership. And I hope today's episode has given you insights and inspiration to master your mindset. Remember, leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about committing to growth and leading with purpose. Until next time, keep striving, keep growing, and keep leading. So take care.